The house was silent but for the faint hum of the refrigerator, a cold, unyielding witness to my solitude. I sat on the worn chair in the dim kitchen, eyeing a lonely bowl of instant soup barely touched, its steam long gone. The scent of bleach still clung to my fingertips from hours of cleaning, folding, ironing. My day boiled down to routine and quiet despair. My gaze lingered on the soft glow of my phone resting on the table, a fleeting hope that it might ring with my son's voice, a sign I was still part of something. Instead, I read Emily's message. "Mother-in-law, remember to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't waste them." The words cut deep. Not a hello, not a note of love, just that delicate mockery hidden behind polite words. I stared at the screen, feeling that familiar ache sneaking into my chest, like porcelain shattered inside, silent but irreparable. The tone, the pointed cruelty, they whispered that I was nothing more than a servant in their perfect tableau. While I ate alone in this house, they toasted at the Skyline Grill, the coiling place where the cheapest dish costs $85, and the wine flows like a reward untainted by the loneliness I bore quietly. I swiped open Instagram, foolishly, for a moment's escape. My son Daniel, in his crisp white shirt I'd ironed that very morning, his radiant smile. Emily in a tight red dress, grinning as if she owned the sunset. My grandchildren Michael and Sarah caught mid-laughter, shrimp dribbling from their tiny mouths. Family happy, perfect, yet I was absent from their celebration, invisible behind the screen. The caption: "Celebrating my Queen's promotion, regional manager at 34. Here's to women who never stop." 237 likes in 20 minutes. I closed the app, trembling inside but holding my face steady. I left the phone flickering on the table, my gaze drifting back to my cooling soup. But then, something strange shifted inside me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't shatter what was fragile. Instead, a cold, icy calm seeped across my limbs, as if my body had already begun to accept what my mind refused to face. I gently rose, every movement slow, measured. Walking to my room, I reached into the closet hidden away. Since that day, I let them take everything I had left. Now, I knew what I would do. No longer heating leftovers, no more silence filled with lurking pain. I was going to disappear tonight. Behind that door, the truth waits something they cannot imagine. What I had secretly prepared for months, what no toast or laughter could see, was a quiet retribution. And when they returned tonight, drunk and arrogant, what they would find would shake the foundation of their feigned happiness. Because to understand why I made this choice, you must know how I arrived here, how a woman of 68, who poured her life into her family, became nothing more than an unpaid maid, discarded and invisible. The story begins 3 years and 4 months earlier, the day I buried David, my husband, taken in 6 swift months by pancreatic cancer. His absence echoed through every corner of our suburban home, where we raised Daniel, celebrated Christmas, marked birthdays. But after the funeral, the house became a prison of silence, each room a reminder of what was lost. Daniel came to visit 2 weeks later, Emily at his side, the same radiant smile I'd seen since he was a boy. "Mum," he said softly over coffee, "Emily and I are looking for a bigger house, for the kids." His voice was hopeful but weighed down with unspoken struggles. "The down payment's $68,000. We've saved half, but it's not enough." I looked at him, a flicker of something hope, perhaps, or guilt before I asked, "How much do you need?" Daniel hesitated. "If you sold this house, Mom, you could come with us. You wouldn't be alone. The kids adore you. It's a win-win." Emily nodded, stroking her nails perfect, painted. "Mother-in-law, you help with the kids. We'd take care of you like family." That word, family, a loaded promise. 3 weeks later, I signed the papers. The custom-designed suburban house in the gated community, with its cold modernity, became my new prison. $120,000 exchanged hands. I handed Daniel the $68,000 for the down payment, kept the rest in savings, thinking I'd secured my safety. But I didn't put my name on the deed. No, Daniel insisted it wasn't needed. The house is for everyone, he said. I believed him. I was naive. The months unfurled in a blur of early mornings and silent sacrifices. I woke at dawn, made bold coffee with cinnamon that Emily wouldn't notice, cooked breakfast for the little ones, Michael 9 and Sarah 6. I dressed them, packed their lunches, kissed them goodbye at the bus stop. Emily left at 7:30, always impeccably dressed, her perfume a distant echo in the hall. Daniel sometimes kissed my forehead, sometimes he just muttered, "Thanks, Mom," before leaving. Alone, I cleaned, washed, and scrubbed, trying to make this house reflect a home. But Emily's inspections became daily rituals: dust on the shelves, a missing item, a stain in the bathroom. Her magnifying gaze reduced me to a servant, her words stripping away my name, reducing me to mother-in-law, to a title devoid of affection. My grandchildren's hugs were genuine, their love undeniable. Yet, whenever Emily saw us together, her eyes narrowing, the warmth fled from her face. Sarah, innocence shining in her eyes, once declared, "Grandma, I love you more than Mommy," right in front of Emily. That night, muffled shouts erupted from their bedroom accusations about how I spoiled the children, how I indulged them, filled their minds with nonsense. Daniel's voice, calm but firm. "She's my mum, Emily. Leave her alone." But that silence grew thick, Daniel's passivity a widening chasm. I realized I was no longer part of their family, just an unacknowledged presence, a ghost in the house. Humiliation seeped into the fabric of our days. Last-minute dinners where I wasn't invited, photos where I wasn't included, Christmas pictures where I held the camera, invisible behind the lens. The image burned into my memory, me behind the camera, while they smiled as if I didn't exist. The house, once warm with memories, now felt like a mausoleum of my own making, my only role to keep everything running while they thrived, distant and cold. Then, that Thursday morning, the day Emily's triumphant news transformed into my silent torment. Her step down the stairs, radiant in her pearl grey suit, her face lit with excitement, her voice breaking with triumph. I got promoted. Regional operations manager, the youngest in the company's history. Daniel, the proud son, embracing her with gleeful pride. "I knew you'd get it," I whispered, flipping pancakes, wishing I could hold on to that fleeting moment of joy. Emily barely glanced at me. "Thanks, mother-in-law," she said curtly, clutching Daniel's arm. They decided to celebrate at their favourite place, Skyline Grill, the one with the skyline view, expensive dishes and the kind of luxury I'd only once glimpsed. Daniel's voice was insistent and loud. "We have to go, Emily, the whole family." My heart fluttered. Surely that included me. I quickly asked about reservations, trying to sound normal, but Emily's reply froze me. "Reservation? Oh, that's just for us, the kids. My mum's coming from upstate. It's an intimate family dinner." Her words sharp, slicing through my hope, leaving only emptiness. Tonight I will disappear. Behind that door, in the darkness I have prepared, is the silence of my resolve, the end of a chapter I never wanted to write. I have given everything, loved deeply, sacrificed silently. But now I ask myself, what if the end isn't just about letting go? Maybe, just maybe, it's about reclaiming my voice, my dignity. No more leftovers, no more invisibility. When they return drunk on arrogance and wine, what they will find behind that door will echo louder than any toast and awakening they could never expect. Because they don't know how I arrived here, what I endured, or the strength it took to finally take control. If you want to understand how this story ends, subscribe. Because what comes next will reshape everything you believe about family, about love, loyalty, and the courage to stand alone. And perhaps, in this silence, I will find the freedom I've long denied myself. I understand, I whispered, my voice barely audible, then turned back toward the stove, though the pan was empty. Emily continued smoothing butter across her toast, her voice light with casual cheer. Someone has to stay behind, right? We can't leave the house deserted. Besides, you cook so well. I'm sure you'll make yourself something nice. Her words floated up, effortless, but I said nothing. My son, Daniel, the little boy I raised, the boy I fought to protect from every blow life dealt him, sat silently staring at the eggs on his plate, a ghost of defiance in his eyes. By 11 that morning, they were gone. Emily changing her outfit thrice, the kids buzzing in their Sunday best, brimming with excitement. Daniel pressed a quick automatic kiss to my forehead, avoiding my gaze. Don't wait up, Mom, he said softly. We'll be late. They left, and the house fell into a silence so thick I could hear my own pulse echoing. I moved through rooms I'd kept immaculate, the living room, the dining area with its immaculate glass table, the kitchen I'd spent hours tending, preparing meals no one ever truly appreciated. Everything was spotless. Everything was in place. Yet I was utterly alone. I poured myself a cup of instant soup cheap, quick, a ritual of invisibility, and sat at the kitchen table, not the dining room where I was supposed to eat because the help doesn't dine there. That was what I was now, wasn't it? The help. The unpaid servant who paid $68,000 for the privilege of working without recognition for a family that ignored her existence. At 7 p.m., out of habit, or perhaps despair, I unlocked Instagram. I didn't know why. Maybe I was trying to confirm what I already sensed. Maybe I was masochistic. The screen flickered with images celebration, joy, success in a life I no longer belonged to. The first photo. Emily, radiant in her red dress, clutching a glass of sparkling wine. Thanks to everyone for joining me on this special day, she wrote. The second. My grandchildren. Michael with sauce on his chin. Sarah flashing a victory sign plates of breaded shrimp and fries between them. The third. A table filled with 9 people. Emily's mother, her sister, her brother-in-law, friends I didn't recognize, all laughing, toasting, celebrating. Me. I was in the kitchen, eating instant soup, invisible in my own home, the comments scrolled quickly 184 in the first hour. Congratulations, Queen, someone wrote, deserving of all the happiness. Cheers to successful women. A beautiful family. No one asked about me. No one noticed that I was missing, that I had disappeared into the shadows of their perfect lives. I closed the app, rinsed my bowl, dried the table, then my phone vibrated. Emily's text. Mother-in-law, remember to heat up the leftovers. Don't waste them. Those words hit me like a punch. Something inside me sank, yet something else stirred. I opened the fridge. Leftovers half-eaten rotisserie chicken from yesterday, rice from Monday, cooked vegetables I'd bought, prepared with hope. That was all I deserved. Their leftovers, their contempt hidden behind polite words. I shut the door gently, took a breath, and typed my reply. Okay. Just 2 letters. But within those 2, a decision rooted deep in me surfaced, one I'd been quietly forming for months, since Emily first dismissed me like a servant, since Daniel stopped defending me. Since the realization dawned, I'd given everything to a family that no longer saw me as anything but a shadow. That night I ascended to my bedroom, retrieved the suitcase from the closet, the same one David and I used on our last trip to the coast, still with the hotel tag attached. I laid it on the bed, began stuffing it with my clothes, my shoes, the photos of David I kept on the nightstand. Then I paused. This couldn't be a childish tantrum, a dramatic storm leaving me broken and begging to return next week. This had to be finished, calculated, absolute. I moved to the back of the closet, shifting aside shoeboxes I never used. Behind them, wrapped in a plastic bag, was my old sewing kit gift from my mother on my wedding day. I opened it and pulled out what I'd concealed for months, a worn hardcover spiral notebook. I turned the pages carefully, exposing the story of my sacrifice. Every dollar invested in this house, every receipt, every proof of payment. My life, meticulously documented in shaky handwriting. August 2022, $68,000 down payment. September, new refrigerator, $1,890, washer and dryer, $250. October, living room set, because Emily insisted they said, too old from the apartment, $3,200. November, burst pipe repair, 807 tons. The list grew, pages filled with costs, TVs, mattresses, bathroom remodels, all paid for with my widow's pension, 1,600 tons a month. Daniel could only afford £480, a mere fraction of the mortgage. The rest I paid every month for 3 years, contributing $920 out of my limited income, I calculated quickly. Down payment and furniture, $847 salidos, $730. Monthly contributions, $3,320 over 3 years. Repairs and extras, $80,150. Total investment, $136,800. That's what I'd poured into their home, the home where I'd been treated worse than a stranger. My inheritance from 42 years of marriage vanishing into this house, into their lives. My hand trembled as I reached into the sewing box's hidden compartment, pulling out a yellowed manila envelope. Inside, the original deeds. I unfolded the papers with trembling fingers, the handwriting clear and firm. Owner, Beatrix Sakaro Mendoza, widow of Torres. It bore only my name. When we purchased the house, the notary explained that since I paid the full down payment, it was safest to keep everything in my name. You can transfer later, Mom, he'd said. But this way, you're protected. Daniel agreed, saying it was safer for me. We kept putting it off until he stopped mentioning it, and I, unconsciously, never pushed. Some part of me always knew I'd need this protection someday, like it was my shield against the storm. Now I understood why. That part of me, the survivor, had hidden the truth, kept the deed safe because it knew I'd need it one day. I gently replaced the deed in the envelope, hesitating. Then I reached for my phone and dialed a number I'd saved. It rang and I heard a young voice professional curious. Hello? Megan, it's Aunt Beatrice. Aunt B, what a surprise. How are you? I'm fine. What's going on? Her voice sharpened with concern. I need your help. It's urgent. Can you come early tomorrow? There was a pause. Aunt B, are you okay? You sound strange. I'm fine now. For the first time in 3 years, I'm feeling right. But I need your legal expertise about my house. My house? Her voice spun with recognition. I thought you were with Daniel and Emily. That's why I'm calling. I've uncovered something. I explained everything: down payment, deeds, expenses, the message about leftovers. When I finished, Megan let out a low whistle. Aunt B, you're telling me that house is entirely in your name and they don't know? That's right. And I have every proof, receipts, transfers, documents. Oh my God. Her fingers typed rapidly on her keyboard. This is legal gold. You have a solid case. Aunt B, really solid. What do I do? I asked. Whatever you decide. Evict them, charge back rent, even sell it. Legally, they're your tenants without a lease. They have no rights to that house. Her voice was firm, almost triumphant. A slow smile crept across my face, not joy, but a cold, just kind of satisfaction. I'll be at your office tomorrow at 8 a.m. with everything. Deeds, receipts, proofs. All of it. Hanging up, I took a deep breath. Then I dialed another number, this one a risk I'd been carrying for months. It rang once, twice, then a voice deep and slow. Hello. Mr. Hector, it's Beatrix Torres, I whispered, voice strained. Sorry to call so late. I need you to review some documents about a property, my house in Satellite City. Mrs. Betty, everything okay? His tone shifted, concerned, cautious. I need to assert my rights, I said softly. We need to meet tomorrow 10 a.m. Have everything ready. I've waited long enough. Another pause. Your family's giving you trouble. His voice was steady. You could say that, I replied, but I've finally learned what I need to do. I hung up, my hand steady now. Finally, I dialed one last number 1 I'd avoided for months. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was necessary. As the line connected, I steadied my breath, ready to step into the power I'd been quietly gathering all these years. Linda's voice finally pulled me from the restless quiet of my room, its tone edged with concern. "What are you doing up at this hour?" The years between us dissolved in that familiar inquiry as if no time had passed. She and I, neighbours once in the suburbs, had watched our sons grow up side by side. She, widowed 2 years before me, still carried a strength that I envied and feared at once. I hesitated, then blurted, "Is the room upstairs still available, Linda? The one I was going to rent?" "Yes," she answered, voice unwavering. "Why? Can you move in tomorrow?" Silence thickened between us. I could feel it, an unseen weight pressing down. My voice cracked for the first time that night, trembling as I admitted, "I can't do it anymore, Linda. I can't keep being invisible in my own house." Her immediate response was firm. "You come tomorrow," she said. "Whenever you want. I'll be waiting." I hung up, a strange relief flooding through me, and then the tears came. Not from sadness, but relief. 3 years of humiliation, of swallowing my dignity in silence, were finally ending. They, the ones who toasted with expensive wine while I ate leftovers, were about to learn the hardest lesson of their lives. It was 10:15 p.m., and I still had time. According to their Instagram stories, they were on dessert, an absurdly decadent chocolate raspberry tower, cost $34 a slice. They'd be home after midnight, maybe 1 a.m. If I timed it right, I had 3, maybe 4 hours. I returned to my room, started packing only the essentials, those fragments of my identity that I had clung to. The woven blanket from my mother, the silver rosary David bought in Mexico, my wedding photos, the collection of books I'd cherished. My Italian coffee maker, the one I'd brought from my old house. Every object was a piece of me, lost and reclaimed in these small acts. But there was something more crucial. I reached into my dresser drawer and pulled out a modest digital recorder I'd bought 6 months ago, a $45 investment that now felt priceless. When you become invisible, people talk freely as if you don't exist. I connected it to my old laptop, transferring files onto a USB drive. File 1. October 15th, 2024. Emily's voice sharp, mocking on the phone with her sister. "No, seriously, it's like having a free maid. She gets up early, cooks, cleans, takes care of the kids. And the best part, I don't have to pay her or give her days off because she's family. Daniel feels guilty sometimes, but I tell him she's better off here than in a nursing home." I remembered her laugh, cold and triumphant. Next, November 23rd. Emily and Daniel in their bedroom about me, of course. The words cut deep. "Your mom is getting really annoying," Emily said. "She's got opinions about everything raising the kids, what I buy, how I tidy up." Daniel defending her. "She's my mom. She just wants to help." Emily's voice rising. "Helping is getting in the way. The kids listen more to her than me. Sarah told me last week Grandma cooks better than I do. What the hell does that mean?" Silence, then a plea. "Daniel, maybe it's time she found her own space, a small apartment, a retirement home." And silence again, heavy with the weight of unspoken agreements. "I'll think about it," came the hesitant reply. A hope for a different future that would never include me. The files kept coming, 17 recordings altogether, each one a testament to my erasure, my worth weighed down, objectified, discarded. I backed everything up, email and all, safeguarding my truth. Next, I retrieved my old phone, an artifact I never threw away, the one I used before Daniel replaced it. On it, I'd saved photographs, receipts Emily had tossed into the trash, screenshots of her social media boasting about the house, the furniture, the renovations. Always my house, never our or we. I copied those images onto the USB, each one a silent protest. The clock read 11:28 p.m., and their last story showed they were still at the restaurant sipping coffee and cognac. I slipped quietly downstairs into the dim, quiet house. Only the hallway light was on, an easy target. I approached each piece of furniture I had purchased. The sofa, $3,200, the glass coffee table, $850, the wooden bookshelf, $200. I paused. This wasn't my style. I'd never steal in the night. Not my way. Only what was truly mine, my clothes, my memories, my dignity, and the deeds. I packed the suitcase, heavy but manageable, and sat on the edge of the bed, pen in hand, a piece of paper beside me. I couldn't leave without a word, a letter. I wrote, each word deliberate and precise, to avoid the satisfaction of pleading or explanation. Daniel, it began. For 3 years I lived in this house as an invisible maid. I cooked, cleaned, cared for your children, paid the bills, and swallowed humiliations in silence. Tonight, while you celebrated Emily's promotion and sent me a text to heat leftovers, I decided I'm no longer a ghost. I placed the note on his pillow, then added the deed proof of my ownership marked with a sticky note. This house is in my name. Always was. I've invested $136,800. See you at the notary's office. The time displayed 11:55 p.m. When I checked my phone, their story still showed they were enjoying dessert, more wine, more laughter. I was ready. Carefully, I carried my suitcase down. Legs protesting, I paused at the door, gazing back at the house I had built with my sweat and tears, floorboards I had scrubbed, walls I'd painted, meals I'd made without thanks. No sadness, only a fierce sense of liberation. I turned the lock and, for the first time in 3 years, didn't leave the key inside. It was mine, after all. I called an Uber, the driver a man in his 50s who offered to help with the luggage. As we moved away, I looked out the window at the receding house, swallowed by darkness. "Long trip, Mom?" he asked. I looked straight ahead, a quiet smile curling my lips. "It's not a long trip," I replied, but a journey back to myself. And as the silent streets blurred past, I pictured the scene. Daniel and Emily, the kids returning to lights and laughter, their cheeks flushed from wine, calling out from the kitchen, waiting for me to come tell them about their perfect dinner. Only to find silence, the bedroom empty, the envelope on the bed, the letter unread but understood. In that moment, I smiled in the darkness of the car. Tonight, the invisible maid had finally woken up and she had fangs. I wasn't there when they got home, but 3 days later, Michael, my grandson, found me at Linda's, tears streaking his cheeks as he recounted what they told him. It was 1:23 a.m. when Daniel's car entered the gated community. The security guard waved them through with a casual greeting. "Laughed loudly," he said later. "Music all the way up." Emily leaning on Daniel's shoulder, 3 glasses of red wine, 2 champagne, a shot of tequila last toast. Daniel, not sober either, with beers and doubles. Their kids asleep in the back. They stumbled up the porch. Emily laughing, nearly falling, Daniel catching her by the waist, whispering, "Regional manager," then grinning, "My wife, the manager," and her reply, "And you, husband of the year." They fumbled for the keys, Daniel staggering slightly. "Shh," Emily giggled. "Don't wake her." "Let her sleep," Daniel said. "She's earned it, taking care of everything." The house was dark, only the upstairs hallway light glowing softly, laughter echoing behind the locked door. I wasn't there, but I was finally free. And that, more than anything, made me smile. The room was silent, except for the faint slur of his voice. Emily flicked on the living room light. And then they saw it. Everything had shifted. Not just the silence, but the space itself. The Persian rug I'd brought from my old house was gone. The one my mother had bought on a trip south 50 years ago, now vanished without explanation. The embroidered cushions on the sofa ones I'd sewn myself over countless months also disappeared. The pictures on the walls, too. My coastal landscapes gifted by David on anniversaries, now replaced by blank, empty walls. Emily's brow furrowed, tense. "Did your mom move things around?" she asked softly. Daniel strode toward the kitchen, flicked on the light. The Italian coffee maker was missing. The ceramic mugs I'd collected, gone. The apron hanging beside the fridge, gone. Silence stretched between them as he called louder, "Mum, where are you?" His voice echoed into the quiet, the weight of uncertainty pressing in. They climbed the stairs, the air thick with dread. Michael, clutching his teddy, told me that's when the alcohol wore off. My door ajar, he pushed it gently. He switched on the light and saw the bed made precisely how I'd left it, but empty. The closet was open, clothes vanished. My books, glasses, rosary, all absent, as if I'd never existed in that room. "What the hell?" Emily muttered behind him, voice trembling. Daniel darted to the bathroom, his eyes widened as he saw my toothbrush, face cream, the perfume I wore, gone. Back in the bedroom, his glance caught the pillow on my side. There, folded neatly, was a letter. His hands trembled as he unfolded it. Emily leaned over his shoulder, my eyes wide. Michael's father's face shifted as he read, the confusion fading into disbelief. Then horror. "What does it say?" Emily whispered, her voice barely audible. "Did she leave? Did your mom leave?" But Daniel was silent, staring at the manila envelope on his nightstand. Clumsy fingers reached inside, pulling out the deeds, then reading the names scrawled in official script. "No," he whispered, voice hollow. "No, no, no." "What is it?" Emily snatched the papers, her eyes darting over the documents, her face drained of colour. This can't be real." She looked at Daniel, voice trembling. "The house, it's in her name. Always was." He sank onto the bed, words choking in his throat. "She sold her house," he said, voice hollow. $68,000. I didn't have anything. It all came from her. Emily's eyes found the sticky note attached to the deed's $136,800. Exact, whole. "She invested over $100,000 in this house," Emily whispered, pale, "and none of it was transferred. We never did that. Oh my God. We never transferred the property." An oppressive silence followed, deafening in its weight. Michael, hearing their voices, came down, rubbing his eyes. He saw his parents in turmoil, shouting, crying, collapsing into despair. While Emily paced, a caged animal, Daniel's voice cracked. "We've lived here 3 years. This is my house," she said desperately, but Daniel shook his head slowly. It was always her house, legally. Always. He looked up, eyes red, weary. "Then you should demand she give it to you," Emily pleaded. "She's your mother. She has an obligation." Daniel looked away, tears staining his cheeks. "We had an obligation, all right," he said quietly. "Not to neglect her, to not leave her alone, while we spent $300 on wine, dismissing her like she was invisible." His voice broke. "And I sent her that damn text reminding her about leftovers. That was all I said, nothing cruel, just humiliating her without realizing." First, the silence between them. Then Michael crying on the stairs, twittering calls for his grandma. Yet she was gone. Daniel dialed my number once, twice, 10 times. His calls went unanswered, silenced by my choice. I was at Linda's house, wrapped in a soft blanket scented of fabric softener, sleeping peacefully, the best sleep in 3 years. No demands, no expectations, just peace. My phone buzzed incessantly, notifications piling up, messages from Daniel, Emily, distant relatives. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened Facebook, rarely used, filled with old contacts, friends from the book club, neighbours, distant cousins. 4,377 friends, most unaware of my existence. Today, I typed trembling fingers. After 3 years caring for a family who made me invisible, I learned self-love isn't selfishness, it's survival. I hit post, then closed the app. Downstairs, Linda greeted me with green chili, refried beans, and cinnamon coffee, my favourite breakfast. I took a bite. "How did you sleep?" she asked gently. I smiled. "Like I haven't in years. And now," I told her, "legal part comes next." At precisely 8, I met Megan in her office. My niece greeted me with a firm hug and a cup of coffee. "Aunt B, you're a legend," she said, eyes gleaming. "Struggling all night over your case? Did you bring everything?" I laid out the deeds, receipts, recordings, photos, the evidence of my rightful ownership. Megan's eyes shone as she reviewed each one. "This is perfect," she whispered. "You have everything. The deed in your name, proof of payments, recordings. It's airtight." She connected her laptop, played snippets of the recordings, her expression turning indignant, like a maid dismissed at her mistress's death. When the old woman dies, she served her purpose. Megan clenched her fists. "With this we can do whatever you want, eviction, back rent, damages. Tell me, what do you need?" I looked at her steady. "I need them to see what they lost, to feel what I felt, to understand that love isn't free when it's intertwined with servitude." Megan nodded. "Then we'll give them a lesson they won't forget." We spent 3 hours drafting the strategy legal letters, subpoenas, property appraisals, calculations of back rent based on market value. By 11, Megan sent the first official document, a summons to Daniel and Emily, requiring their presence at Notary Hector Salinas Bravo's office on Monday at 10 a.m., mandatory, with ID. The message pinged at 11:47, locking their fate into play. Meanwhile, my phone refused to stop vibrating. At noon, I finally checked Daniel's texts, pleading, begging, apologizing. "Mom, please, we need to talk. This is a misunderstanding. I never knew the house was in your name. The kids are asking for you. Michael's crying. Sarah doesn't understand. Please." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened Facebook again. My post now had 243 reactions and 189 comments. Reading them, I felt a quiet strength voices of old friends and neighbors echoing my truth. "Beatrice, I didn't know you were going through this. I always saw you as so strong. I'm glad you found your voice." Rosa, my old neighbor. "I've been living with my son and his wife for 2 years. I relate so much. Thank you for sharing your story." Patricia, from the book club. "My mum experienced something similar. It's heartbreaking and inspiring. She ended up in the hospital, stress breaking her once steady breath. I wish she had your courage, the kind that shatters silence and dares to speak truth." A cousin I hadn't seen in years. The weight of that unexpected bond hit me harder than I expected. Older women so often dismissed, given crumbs of respect, deserve so much more. Mrs. Guadalupe, my childhood friend, once a pillar of strength and kindness. And so they poured out. Comment after comment from women sharing their stories, voices trembling with shared pain. Women living with children who treat them as unpaid caregivers. Women who lost homes, savings, dignity, all swallowed by silence, turned into a community of the unheard. At 3 p.m., my phone rang. My sister's voice trembled on the line. "Beatrice, what's going on? Daniel called crying, says you left the house." I hesitated, then corrected. "I left my job as a domestic worker in that house." Silence. She whispered, "But he's your son. Family doesn't humiliate you, Beatrice. Family doesn't make you invisible, sending mocking texts about leftovers while they celebrate without you." Her voice cracked. I told her everything, the last 3 years laid bare, the endless humiliation, the silent betrayals. When I finished, tears welled in her eyes. "Forgive me," she begged. "I thought you were happy there. I thought it was enough smiling, hiding the pain. But smiling never meant happiness." By 5 p.m., my brother-in-law, Susan's husband, had called Daniel. He left a message I later heard. "Nephew, you made a grave mistake. Your mother is a woman of honor, and you treated her like a doormat. Now learn your lesson, you're paying the price." Cracks in the family's facade widened. The usual assumption that the children are right began to unravel under quiet scrutiny. At 7 a call lit up my phone. It was Mrs. Betty, the neighbor from my old block. "I wanted to tell you," she said softly, "that everyone knows what happened. And you're right. I saw you every day, taking out trash, washing their car, buying groceries, and they never thanked you. How did they find out? Her voice trembled. Emily, returning from the store with swollen eyes, had burst at the neighbor's home, furious and accusing. "You're ungrateful," she shouted, "left us on the street, selfish." My blood boiled. The neighbors' silent witnesses raised their voices for the first time, and the stagnant air cracked with outrage. That night, I refreshed my Facebook. The post had exploded. 420 reactions, 352 comments, and more. 23 women sent private messages stories of mistreated mothers-in-law, forgotten mothers, exploited grandmothers. One wrote, "Beatrice, thank you for speaking up. You gave me the courage to leave my daughter's house. I'm looking for an apartment tomorrow." Another, "I've been caring for my grandkids for 5 years, unpaid, while my daughter-in-law goes out to have fun. Thanks to you, I'll tell her enough is enough." My pain, my silence was becoming collective strength, my personal revenge woven into a shared upheaval. At 11 p.m., Daniel sent a message. "Mom, we received the lawyer's summons. Please don't do this. We're family." I stared at my phone, then finally replied, "Family is built on respect, son. Not blood, not obligation. We'll see you Monday at the notary." I turned off the screen, knowing the coming storm had only begun. For the first time in years, I was the lightning, and the house I built with love and sacrifice was about to be shattered. Sunday stretched endlessly. Daniel showed up at Linda's at 9 in the morning, ringing insistently until my friend, protective and firm, blocked the door. "She can't see him," Linda said quietly. "She's resting after 3 years of exploitation. I won't let him disturb her." I came down the stairs, heart pounding, feeling the ache of his eyes, red, shadowed, aged past his years, his shirt wrinkled from the week hung on him, a ghost of the boy I once knew. When he saw me, his voice cracked. "Mum." He looked torn, helpless. "Daniel, we need to talk." Linda's gaze lingered, letting me decide. I nodded. "Let him in." In her small living room, the silence pressed like a weight. Daniel fidgeted, eyes darting, fingers knotting his hands. He looked lost, overwhelmed. Finally he spoke in a voice raw with shame. "I didn't know the house was in your name." "Yes," I replied softly. "Why didn't you tell me?" His gaze fell. "I did. When we first moved. I reminded you every 2 weeks, 'Mum, we need to do the transfer.' I remembered those reminders, the hesitant promises, the excuses. Later you said, 'We're busy,' or 'Next week, Mom,' and I stopped asking because I knew deep down what I was protecting you from. The truth I'd learned the hard way, protecting myself from becoming nothing more than a servant in my own home. He looked like he wanted to say more, but words failed him. I pressed on. "Do you know how much I invested in this house? The deeds say $136,800. That's from the sale of our family home where I raised you, where your father died holding my hand. I sold my memories, Daniel, the last piece of him I had left." Tears blurred my vision as I spoke. I paid the mortgage $480 a month, yet the real payment was $1,400. I covered the difference with my pension, after essentials clothes, medicine, transport. My $680 a month left me to survive, while Emily spent $300 on a bottle of wine. His face paled as he listened. "I never knew," he whispered, voice trembling. "You didn't ask," I said. "You assumed I was fine because I smiled, because I kept doing everything, as if that was enough. But I was drowning every day for 3 years. I pulled out a worn notebook and placed it on the table. Look." Trembling, he opened it, revealing taped receipts, notes, proof of transfers, over $130,000 in total contributions. That doesn't include the work I did, cooking 3 meals a day, cleaning, caring for you and your sister, ironing. If we value that labor at the rate of a live-in worker, another $40,000 at least. His hand clenched the notebook. "Mom, I don't have that kind of money." "I know," I said softly. "I don't expect it." But I want you to see what you've lost. Not just a house, not just money. You lost your mother. You lost me. When was the last time you asked how I was? If I missed your father? If I was lonely? Or if I needed a hug? Silence stretched. You see, I became your servant, not your mother. And you let it happen. His sob caught in his throat. I'm sorry, he whispered, heartbreak plain in his voice. Sorry doesn't fill the years, Daniel. Sorry doesn't give me back my dignity. I reached into my pocket, pulling out a small USB drive. Placing it on the table, I looked at him steadily. Listen to this. All of it. Alone. Emily can't be there. You'll only hurt her more. If you hear it with her, you might destroy what little family remains. His brow furrowed. What's on it? The truth, I answered quietly. 17 recordings, conversations where Emily mocks me, plans to push me out, jokes about my being just the housekeeper, her friends laughing at my cost. Listen to it, Daniel. Hear what she really thinks. His hand hesitated before closing around the drive. Mum, Monday, 10 a.m. at Notary Salinas's office. You decide who comes. Just you or your wife too. But you'll come alone first so we can speak honestly. He paused with his hand on the door. Is there anything I can do to fix this? I took a breath, steady and firm. Yes. Learn. Change. Teach your children that elders are not furniture, that a mother's work is valuable and love and respect aren't optional. The door swung open. The storm was only beginning. But for the first time in years, I was the lightning standing tall despite the thunder. He left without a word, the door closing softly behind him, as if into a silence that spoke volumes. Linda sat beside me, her arms wrapping around my trembling frame, holding me as I finally let the tears come. Did you do the right thing? She whispered, her voice gentle but uncertain. I shook my head, eyes glued to the floor, voice hoarse, honest. I don't know. All I know is I did what I had to. That afternoon, Michael came alone to Linda's house. He rang the doorbell with a trembling hand. When I opened the door, he threw himself into my arms, sobbing, Grandma, I miss you so much. I hugged him tight, feeling the rush of his warmth, inhaling deeply sweet, familiar, innocent. My grandson, my beloved grandson, I murmured, voice thick with emotion. You're not to blame for any of this. I miss you too, my love. Why did you leave? I crouched to meet his eyes, clouded with confusion and longing. Because sometimes, I said softly, when someone treats you badly for a long time, you have to walk away, to remind them you're still important. His small face crumpled. But we don't treat you badly, he whispered. Your parents forgot how to treat you right. His innocence pierced me. Dad's really sad. Mum won't stop crying. I nodded, tears threatening again. Are you coming back? He asked, eyes searching mine, full of hope and fear. I looked into his young face and wished I could promise everything would be okay, but words failed me. I don't know, Michael, I admitted, but I love you, and none of this is your fault. Do you understand? He nodded, wiping tears with the cuff of his sweater. We spent 2 hours together, shared cookies, a story I read aloud, and a game of dominoes, familiar and warm like old times. When Daniel arrived to pick him up, a shadow darkened his face. Despair hung around him like fog. Did you listen to everything? I asked from the doorway. He nodded silently. All of it? Again, the quiet confirmation. Then I'll see you tomorrow. That night, sleep was elusive. I knew the next day's outcome would change everything. Not just about that house, but whether a fractured family could be mended, or if some wounds were too deep to heal. On Monday at 9:30 a.m., I sat in Notary Salinas's office, flanked by Megan, her sleek leather briefcase bulging with documents. She looked the part, black pantsuit, heels clicking softly, hair pulled back in a perfect bun like a star from a courtroom drama. Ready, Aunt Beatrice? She asked as we climbed the marble stairs of the colonial building in downtown Coyoacan. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and coffee as we stepped into Mr. Hector's office. High-ceilinged, lined with dark mahogany, timeless and grave. He greeted me with a warm paternal hug. "I'm sorry things have come to this," he said, voice tinged with regret. I managed a faint smile. "Me too, but here we are." The clock's hands pointed to 9:47. 5 minutes later, footsteps echoed up the stairs. The door swung open, revealing Daniel wearing a grey suit, somber, as if headed to a funeral, his eyes bloodshot and hollow. Behind him, Emily entered, no longer confident but subdued. She wore a modest navy dress, no makeup, her hair in a simple ponytail like a scolded girl. They settled on the opposite side of the table, Mr. Hector at its head. Megan laid out her documents with clinical precision. "We're here to resolve the property and occupancy issues," she announced, voice steady. "Mrs. Beatrice is the legal owner of the house that we know," Emily interrupted sharply. Her voice trembled with tension. "We already have all the information." Megan arched an eyebrow. "Oh, do you?" she pressed. "You realize my client has invested $136,800 in that property?" Emily clenched her fists, silence thickening. "And that you've been living there without a lease for 3 years?" Megan added. Emily nodded, face tight. "Exactly. My client can request immediate eviction, recover back rent, and sue for damages." Emily's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Yes, we know," she whispered. Quiet stretched out, heavy and unspoken. Daniel cleared his throat sharply. "Mom," he said, voice cracked. "I listened to all the recordings, all 17 of them," he managed, voice trembling. 4 hours of... It destroyed me a little each time." Emily closed her eyes, defeat shadowing her face. Daniel poured out what he'd learned, unwavering. "I had no idea what she said about you behind your back," he admitted. "How she mocked you, even tried to convince me to send you to a nursing home when you weren't useful anymore." His energy wavered as he ran trembling hands over his face. "And the worst, she planned to keep the house even when you got sick." Emily's sobs broke through the room. She looked utterly defeated. "No," she whispered, voice ragged. "I didn't mean it. Just frustration. I didn't mean..." Her words fell apart. Daniel's voice rose, firm and angry. "There's a recording from October where you say, and I quote, 'As soon as the old woman gets sick or starts with dementia, we'll send her to a cheap nursing home and keep the house.' You didn't mean that?" Emily's face crumpled further. Megan, sensing cowardice or perhaps opportunity, pulled out her laptop with a predatory grin. "Would you like to listen to the recordings now? I have certified copies," she said, eyes gleaming. Emily shook her head rapidly. "No need," she said hurriedly. Megan's smile sharpened. "Actually, I think it is. We also have witness statements from neighbours, photographs of humiliating messages, and detailed records of psychological, financial, and emotional abuse." Her words dripped with cold menace, and Emily's pale face betrayed her mounting dread. At last, she sank into her seat, trembling. Notary Hector watched her silently, then spoke. "Mrs. Emily, I've known Mrs. Beatrice for 30 years. She's a woman of honour yet. You've treated her with contempt." Emily buried her face in her hands, her voice a whisper of remorse. "I know," she choked out. "I'm sorry. Truly." My voice, cold and sharp, broke into her confession. "You're sorry. Are you remorseful for humbling me, or merely for getting caught?" Her face flooded with mascara-streaked tears, raw and exposed. "I'm sorry for both," she admitted in a broken voice. "Sorry I was cruel and sorry I was exposed. It's forced me to see what I've become." Unexpected, her words surprised me. I expected apology, not self-destructiveness. "I grew up poor," she continued, voice trembling. "My mother was a maid her whole life. When I finally escaped that poverty, I thought I had become better, but I was just like those who looked down on us. I did this to you, to her." Her tears spilled over. "I was the worst version of myself with you." Daniel looked at her with aching disappointment. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you treat her like that? knowing how she felt, how she suffered. Because I was afraid, Emily's voice cracked. Afraid my children would love you more. Afraid Daniel would see that you're a better mother, a better cook, everything I'm not. I wanted to feel superior, to be the lady of the house. But it wasn't my house. It was yours, the one you paid for. Built. Her voice broke as she added, and I was blind. So cruel. Only after you left did I finally see that. Megan looked at me, sensing the same possibility: legal ruin, perhaps, or justice. But something in Emily's broken confession made me hesitate. I asked quietly, "Does your mother know how you treated me?" She shook her head. If she knew, she'd disown me. She adores grandmothers. She always said, "Treat your mother-in-law as you'd want your own mother to be treated." I nodded. Wise advice. Too bad you didn't follow it. Mr. Hector drummed his fingers thoughtfully. We need to resolve the practical matter now. Megan spread out the documents with precision. Option 1, immediate eviction. You have 30 days to vacate. Mrs. Beatrice gets her house back. Emily paled at the thought. Option 2, purchase. You pay her $136,800 within 90 days, and the house legally becomes yours. Daniel shook his head. We don't have that kind of money. Megan pressed on. Option 3, which I proposed, property division and cohabitation agreement. I'll explain. I took a breath, feeling the weight of the moment. It means we legally divide the house. I get 60%, you get 40%. Megan laid out the specifics. The property will be registered with the notary, with clear legal weight. But Emily's 59, and this split gives you some security. Emily frowned. 60-40? That still leaves the house more in your name. And I won't go back there, I cut in. I'm staying where I am, but my 60% comes with conditions. Megan handed me another document. Mrs. Beatrice will rent her share to tenants she personally selects, families who will live with you. Emily's eyes widened. What? You want us to live with strangers? She asked incredulously. Yes, I answered steadily. I want you to feel what it's like, sharing your space with those you didn't choose. They'll pay rent of $850 a month directly to me. Maybe it will remind you of what it means to share, to respect the space of others. The air in the small office felt thick with unspoken weight as I watched Daniel, his shoulders hunched, tears pooling in his eyes. The flicker of understanding that flashed across his face was immediate, almost visceral, like he could feel exactly what I had felt for months. The suffocating lack of privacy, the constant pressure to be pleasant to the strangers invading our home, the hollow ache of feeling unseen. He looked down, then looked up sharply. Mom, his voice cracked, eyes brimming. You're right. We need help. Without hesitation, he asked, Can we do family therapy? Once a week, for 6 months? I'll cover the first 10 sessions, no Emily, just us. And after that, I'll pay, if you think it's worth it. His words hit me like a burst of wind. He was trembling, tears carving silent paths down his cheeks. I saw the rawness. My stomach clenched. You'd do that, I whispered, voice trembling. After everything? After all my hurt? You still want to try to fix us? He stood slowly, walking around the cluttered table to kneel before me. Forgive me, Mom? Please, he begged, voice thick with remorse. I caught him as he leaned into me and we held on tight, his shudders, my tears blending into a quiet storm that echoed years of longing. From her chair, Emily watched, eyes glassy, her fragile voice breaking the silence. And me, she ventured softly, voice small. Is there anything I can do to earn your forgiveness? I turned my gaze sharply onto her, fierce and steady. Start by treating the tenants I'll be placing in this house with respect. Value what you have, both this home and your family, and teach my grandchildren that respect isn't optional. Her nod was hesitant but sincere, tears streaming down her face. I will. I promise you. Later, as the legal papers were signed and sealed, property divided 60-40, the lease agreements and protections carefully drafted, I felt a strange, fragile relief settle over me. 2 hours had transformed everything. I was finally free. But the real lesson lingered. Sometimes justice isn't about destruction. It's about the slow, persistent weight of accountability, living with the consequences every day, in every breath. 2 weeks after the notary's final signatures, I sat in a quiet cafe in Coyoacán, across from Teresa Campos, a 52-year-old widowed elementary school teacher with hopeful eyes and a gentle smile. Her 2 children, Miguel, 14, and Andrea, 11, shifted nervously at her side as she edged into the conversation. "I've been looking for a new place for 3 years," Teresa admitted softly. "Since my husband died in that car accident, we had to sell everything our condo to cover medical debts. Now, I want a fresh start. For us." "Mrs. Castillo," she said with a cautious yet hopeful tone, "are you sure you want to rent part of your house to us? With 2 teenagers, it'll get noisy." I took a slow sip of coffee and smiled. "Call me Beatrice. I understand." "I'm not hiding anything. I won't lie about what life with us might look like. You need to know what you're signing up for." I caught her gaze steady. "I want my family to learn empathy, yes, but I also want a decent home and for my children to understand that respect is not optional." She nodded, her face softening. "Sounds fair. When can we move in?" A week later, at 8:47 Juris Circuit, amid the clatter of the moving truck, I watched Teresa's family settle into their new home and act that felt more like a beginning than an end. Emily opened the door amidst the chaos, her face a tableau of conflicting emotions, a forced smile strained under the weight of unspoken words. "Mother-in-law?" she greeted softly, avoiding my gaze. "Call me Beatrice," I corrected gently, stepping inside as Teresa's kids gazed around, awe mirrored in their eyes. "This is your new home." Behind me, Teresa's children looked around, wide-eyed, Andrea whispering, "It's huge," and Miguel nodding. Daniel appeared from the kitchen, his eyes clearer, a slight lift to his shoulders, better yet still carrying the ghost of guilt. "Mom," he said softly, then turned to Teresa. "You must be Mrs. Campos." "Teresa, please," she responded with a smile, reaching out her hand. Emily's quiet mutter brushed past my ears. "We didn't have a choice." I fixed her with a sharp look. "Almost," I said. She lowered her gaze. "Sorry. Welcome," she finally mumbled. I led them through the house-large bedroom for Teresa, a smaller one for Miguel and Andrea, shared by Sarah, who had eagerly said, "I want to share. I always wanted a sister." The shared spaces, the kitchen, the living and dining rooms, these weren't just rooms, but stages for new beginnings. That night, Teresa's cheerful voice floated up from the kitchen. "Green chicken enchiladas. Extra for anyone who's hungry." Emily appeared at the doorway, confusion flickering across her face. "What's that smell?" "Dinner," Teresa chirped, beaming. "Please join us." Emily hesitated, a flicker of territorial instinct flicked in her eyes, yet she bit her tongue, suppressing the words that would have clashed. "Thank you," she said softly. "It smells delicious." Around the table, strangers became a family. Daniel and Emily shared awkward smiles, bonding over soccer in the yard, while Sarah and Andrea laughed over shared secrets. Michael and Miguel both found brothers in each other, their innocence slowly rebuilding broken bridges. Childhood untainted by prejudice was beginning anew here. Weeks turned into months. Daniel and I stepped into therapy, our first session a deluge of tears and confessions. "I let her get lost," Daniel admitted, voice trembling. "I broke our bond because it was easier to keep the peace with Emily than defend you. I was afraid I'd be left alone." Dr. Montero's voice was calm, compassionate. "Fear makes us allow intolerable things. But you still have a chance to rebuild." Gradually, our calls turned warmer. Daniel started asking about my day, my health, small acts of connection. One day he appeared with a bouquet. Just because, he said softly, because you're my mom, and I love you. I clutched those flowers, tears spilling anew. Meanwhile, in the community house, life with Teresa's family was revealing quiet truths, complaints over hot water, minor disagreements, but mostly moments of growth. Daniel played soccer with Miguel and Michael, his help genuine. Emily, without anyone asking, helped Andrea with math, earning a heartfelt thank you from the girl. Children, unburdened by adult prejudices, built their little world of trust. One Sunday, a month into our new life, Daniel invited me over for lunch. "Teresa's making mole," he said shyly. "She says it's your favorite." I hesitated. "Mom," he pleaded softly, "please, the kids miss you and I need you to see I'm trying." My heart pounding, I entered the house I'd left behind, the same yet different, photos of Andrea's drawings, Miguel's bike on the porch, all whispering stories of hope. Sarah ran to hug me. "You came." Michael, taller than I remembered, pressed a brotherly hug. "Missed you, Grandma," he whispered. Teresa greeted me warmly. "Come in, Beatrice. Your house, your table." Then I saw Emily, the tentative, nervous face, wiping her hands with trembling fingers. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. We looked at each other, two women once at war, now tentative allies in this melody of rebuilding. The aroma of mole filled the air. "Teresa's recipe," I said, smiling. "It's better than mine," Emily admitted, a tentative laugh breaking through. We all sat 11 of us around one table, sharing stories, laughter, and hopes. Miguel's joke, Andrea's song, Michael's grades, Sarah's drawing, they became a portrait of kinship. In that picture, I was there, crowned with a crown Sarah drew. "You're the queen, Grandma," she whispered, "because you brought us all together." Overwhelmed, I broke tears spilling in front of everyone. Daniel squeezed my hand. "Thank you, Mom," he whispered, "for never giving up on us." "Thank you," I whispered back, "for finally seeing me again." Later, Emily asked to speak with me alone, stepping into the backyard familiar and quiet. "Bat," she began, voice fragile. "I know I can't ask for forgiveness. I've hurt you beyond words. But I want you to know I'm in therapy, working on my insecurities, my need to control everything." "Good," I said sincerely, watching her with cautious respect. She wiped a tear. "Teresa's taught me about gratitude, about appreciating what I have. I lost my house, my husband, yet I still smile. I've always had everything, and I never stopped complaining. I want to change. I want to try." I studied her, a woman broken and trying to mend herself. "Forgiveness," I said softly, "isn't begged for. It's earned with time, with actions, with genuine change." Her face lit with cautious hope. "Really? Really? But if you ever treat anyone in this house poorly again, if you slip back into that cruelty, I'll walk away. This agreement ends." She nodded swiftly, eyes shimmering with quiet resolve. 6 months had slipped by since that tumultuous October, yet everything within me had shifted profoundly. Daniel and I, once fractured, had begun piecing ourselves back together, not perfectly, but honestly. We saw each other twice a week, our voices intertwining more often on the phone. Surprisingly, he asked for my opinion, no longer out of obligation, but because he genuinely valued my voice. Emily had also changed, softening her pride into quiet gratitude, learning to restrain, to share without defensiveness. Then, one day, her call raised the air's tension. "Beatrice," she said softly, "can we meet, just the two of us, for coffee?" I agreed, curiosity prickling at me as I found myself sitting across her in a neutral Starbucks. She reached into her bag, pulling out papers that shimmered with significance. "I want to offer you something," Emily began, voice steady. "I've been saving, speaking with the bank. I can get a loan." She slid the documents toward me, her hands trembling slightly. "I want to buy your 60% of the house over 5 years, in monthly installments of $2,300. It's a fair interest, all based on calculations." I sat silent, eyes scanning the figures. Why? I finally asked. My voice felt distant, cautious. Her answer came simple and unwavering. Because it's the right thing. It's your house, your investment, the sacrifice you made. We've been living off your kindness for too long. Her eyes searched mine. I thought you wanted to keep it free like before. A faint smile curled my lip. The Emily from a year ago would have, I acknowledged, my tone layered with irony. But today she wants to earn what's hers, to pay her debts, to sleep without guilt. Looking at the numbers, I saw they were generous. Too much so, in a way. I thought of Teresa and her children. We offered to keep them as tenants, I said, with a proper lease, fair rent. Teresa's family had become my confidants, her presence a steadying hand. Teresa herself was more than a tenant. She was a friend, an external conscience. I nodded slowly. All right, I accept. Relief washed over Emily's face. Thank you. She breathed, for giving me this chance, for not destroying us when I thought you might. Because I gain nothing from that, I replied softly. What I want is to see my family whole, healed. Now, a year and 3 months later, I sit in my modest apartment in downtown Coyoacan, suitcase packed beside me. I'm 69, and each day I teach knitting at the community center, finding purpose amid the quiet. Once a month, I see my therapist. I walk with Linda Dawns, breaths deep in the city's pulse. Daniel visits every Sunday, sometimes with the kids, sometimes alone, just cooking like we used to. Emily's updates texts with pictures, recipes she's trying as small, sincere gestures of her efforts. Teresa and I are close friends now. Her children call me Aunt Betty. The rent, I collect $850 from Teresa's family, plus $2,300 from Emily, allows me dignity and independence. Do I have my family back? Not entirely. Wounds remain, scars that time may never erase, but what I've regained is more vital. Myself, my name, my voice, my respect. I learned that love isn't only what you give. Sometimes, it's what you give yourself. Last week, Sarah handed me a drawing me, standing before a house with a suitcase, a smile across my face. Beneath, she'd written in uneven letters, "My grandma, Beatrice, the bravest woman I know, because she knew when to leave and when to come back." I framed it, placing it in my living room. That 7-year-old girl understood something many adults forget, that staying where you're hurt isn't love, but habit. Breaking free, even if it hurts or feels selfish, is the greatest act of love you can give yourself. Now I sleep peacefully in my own bed, in my own space. When I look in the mirror, I finally see what I spent years searching for. A woman visible to the world, valued, truly free. It's a Sunday afternoon and I'm in Coyoacan's park with Michael and Sarah. We bought corn ice cream sitting beneath a leafy tree. Michael, turning 11 with a voice just beginning to deepen, asks softly, "Do you regret leaving that night?" Without hesitation, I say, never, not even a little. That decision saved me. It reminded me who I was before I became invisible. Sarah, with ice cream on her nose, grins and asks, "And are you happy now?" I lift her onto my lap even as she grows taller. "Yes," I answer, because I'm where I choose to be, not where I'm tolerated. Daniel approaches, carrying coffee. Sitting beside me, he grins, a genuine, rare smile I hadn't seen in years. "Mum," he says softly, "can we do this every Sunday? Park ice cream time with Grandma?" I nod, my heart swelling. "I'd love that." He beams, the noblest smile, his true self returning. "Mom?" I know I say it often, but thank you for not giving up, for teaching us the hardest lesson we needed. "You're welcome," I say, voice thick with emotion. "Do you know what my therapist told me last week?" "What?" "That what I did wasn't revenge. It was restorative justice. Because I made us face consequences without destroying us all in hopes of change." He nods thoughtfully and we sit under that tree, watching the children's laughter flutter through the air. My mind drifts to the women who reached out after my Facebook post, those who found courage to leave, to set boundaries, to reclaim dignity. My story isn't just mine. It belongs to all of us, those invisible, exploited, battered souls who give everything, hoping for respect's crumbs. Because real wealth isn't what's in your bank account. It's what you refuse to allow to be taken from you. I, Beatriz Sacaro Mendoza, widow of Torres, at 69, have reclaimed my soul. No one will snatch that from me again. If this story touched you, stirred your sense of worth, or encouraged someone you love, please comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Remember, if you've ever faced the choice of staying where you're hurt or leaving to save yourself, it's never too late to reclaim your dignity. Subscribe. Here, we share stories of brave men and women who choose to respect themselves because, at the end of the day, love that dismisses respect isn't love at all. It's habit, and habits that hurt you are meant to break.